Texas and Oklahoma paid up to get out of the Big 12 1 year early and join the SEC. What if USC and UCLA did the same thing? Pay up to get out of the Pac-12 1 year early and join our beloved Big 10 this season in 2023. How would the Trojans and the Bruins stack up in our beloved Big 10 conference?
From LA to Piscataway, all Big 10 all year long. This is Big 10-10.
Now, without a schedule in front of me, without a format, who USC and UCLA would play, who do they draw at home in Southern California, who do they draw on the road in some of these tough Big 10 venues, it's really hard to determine records or where they would finish. Would they go to the Big 10 championship game, things like that. So I'm going to maybe see where they slide in terms of what tier. Could they compete for a Big 10 championship? How would they fare against some of these different teams in the Big 10? So that's more of what I'm going for. And man, would this be exciting this season, because there are things that USC and UCLA have in 2023 that won't be in the Big 10 when they officially join in 2024. And there are certain things in the 14 members of the Big 10 that are here in 2023 that won't be here in 2024 when the Trojans and Bruins officially join the Big 10 conference. So this would be awfully exciting if this were to happen in 2023. This is a hypothetical look at this, and it's a very interesting look at this, because I think if these two teams joined in 2023, it looked a little bit different than what they're going to look like when they eventually join in 2024. I will say this about both of these teams. Man, would they have to get drastically better on the defensive side of the football. UCLA actually was just a little bit better in terms of scoring defense last year than USC. The Bruins, 92nd in scoring defense in the country last season. USC, 94th in scoring defense in the country last season. Like, look at some of those games late in the season, especially from USC. Look at that game against the Utah Utes. Utah, kind of a tougher, a physical team, kind of built like a Big 10 football team. I thought that when I watched the Pac-12 championship game. Kyle Whittingham, kind of that tough, hard-nosed type of coach that often succeeds in the Big 10 conference. And you saw what Utah was able to do to USC in that Pac-12 championship game, and you really saw USC kind of wane down the stretch. The Trojans did not definitely finish strong under Lincoln Riley over there in 2022. If they were to compete, if USC or UCLA wanted to compete with some of the big boys in the Big 10, they would need to get a lot better on the defensive side of the ball. Now, I know USC has gone into the transfer portal. Half of their starters this season might be transfers, which has its positives, because USC obviously is a team that needs to get better at the defensive side of the ball. They need to get better at tackling in space. They need to be tougher and physical up front in the front seven. There's no question about that. But on the other flip side, we know how sometimes transfers can be hit or miss. I think USC will be better on the defensive side of the football in 2023, but you put them against those tough, physical run games of the Big 10 Conference. How are they going to hold up in that 9-game gauntlet, especially on the defensive line? Those linebackers, you go up against an offensive line like a Michigan, like a Penn State, and some of these other great running games. Look what Penn State has for a duo. Look what Michigan has. Look what Ohio State has. How about Braylon Allen and Ches Malusi at Wisconsin? Going through that week after week after week in the Big 10 this season would be difficult, I think, to say the least, for both USC and UCLA. At least coming back to reality, you have time to kind of physical up your defense, physical up your team, so to speak, for the USC Trojans and the UCLA Bruins. It would be fun to see how they kind of adapt to that culture, the Big 10 lifestyle, so to speak. It is a grind in the Big 10 with the physical offensive lines, with these physical running games, and these physical defenses as well. Boy, I tell you what, you put Caleb Williams in the Big 10 in 2023, that is going to be fun to watch. There's a couple of sides I really look at with Caleb Williams, because that's the thing that really sticks out to me that'll be at USC in 2023 that, let's be honest, probably is not going to be there when USC joins the Big Ten in 2024. Now, the Pac-12 isn't exactly, it may be the Conference of Champions, it's not exactly the Conference of Defense. I think Caleb Williams would get smacked around a little bit more in the Big Ten. Can you now, instead of taking on Utah and Oregon and Washington and Stanford and Cal and Arizona State and those teams, instead of that, you're taking on Michigan and what they've been able to do on defense. How about Penn State and what they're slated to have on the table in 2023? Ohio State, especially those great pass rushers, the defensive line for the Buckeyes this season could take a big step forward. Iowa and Illinois, I would love to see those matchups. The high-flying offense of USC against those vaunted defensive linemen, that defensive front at Illinois, Johnny Newton as well, Keith Randolph coming off the edge for the orange and blue against that USC offensive line. Could they get to Caleb Williams enough time to really smack him around? I think that's the big thing. I think in the Pac-12, Caleb Williams is maybe he's got a couple more seconds, maybe he's got a little bit more time to decipher the defense. And I don't think the secondary talent maybe is what it is in the Big Ten Conference. I think Big Ten is a much better defensive conference than the Pac-12. But man, it would be a challenge. I will say this. I will give USC some credit. It would be a challenge to see Caleb Williams and this Lincoln Riley offense go up against some of these Big Ten defenses. When they play USC, they'd have to be ready for the Trojans. All right. How would these two teams fare? I think USC would be in contention for the Big Ten title, maybe mid to late October, maybe even going into November. But when I look at games against Michigan, I don't think they're beating Michigan. You look at the Penn State and Ohio State, I think those are going to be tough games. I mentioned going up against some of those defenses as well. Iowa and Illinois, if maybe last year taught me anything about USC, this is a team that didn't exactly finish strong. Caleb Williams was kind of limping towards the end of the season. This is a team that needs to get tougher, playing in a 9-game Big Ten gauntlet in their first edition of a 9-game Big Ten gauntlet. I think it's hard for me to imagine USC going through that gauntlet and not losing to those types of teams that I just mentioned, the Michigans, the Penn States, and the Ohio State. Although I think the matchups with the Nittany Lions and the Buckeyes would be more competitive to that with Michigan. But they would be in contention. These would not be blowouts. It might be a 10-point game. It might be a 2-possession game. It would be competitive games. I just don't know if they have the full, complete rosters like a Penn State does, like an Ohio State does, that in 2023 to truly make that run to a potential slot in the Big Ten championship. But if you have an East-West split, then yeah, USC's probably going to the Big Ten title game. But like I said, we don't have that format. We don't know the format in this hypothetical fantasy land. Been talking a lot about USC. What about the Bruins from Westwood? What about UCLA? Sounds like they're going to trot out Dante Moore, the true freshman phenom, as a starting quarterback. I think UCLA and Dante Moore would see a lot of ups and downs. I think they'd be exciting. I think they would be competitive in some games. But in the end, I think they'd be a streaky team. I think they'd win a couple, maybe pull an upset. But then I could see them coming back down a little bit. I could see UCLA somehow losing to a team, like a Nebraska or a Purdue or somebody like that, like a Michigan State. I could just see UCLA kind of going up and down, riding the roller coaster a little bit with Dante Moore, a true freshman, in this conference as well. This is a decent UCLA team, and I think they're kind of the wild card in this whole expansion team. I think they could be good, but they could also, be a 5 to 7 win team once they join the Big Ten Conference. And I think being in the 2023 version of the Big Ten would provide that as well. If USC and UCLA were in the Big Ten in 2023, I think there's a legitimate argument that the Big Ten would be the best conference in all of college football. You add USC and the defending Heisman Trophy winner, Caleb Williams, would be the best quarterback in the Big Ten. This USC team, I know maybe they don't have the running games that a Michigan has, that a Penn State has, that all these great running backs, offensive lines in the Big Ten. but they would arguably be the best offense in the Big Ten. I think the Big Ten would definitely be the best offensive conference in the country. They think they're this year, if USC and UCLA were in the conference, this might be as good as argument as they've had in maybe the last 20 or 30 years, that the Big Ten is on par with what the SEC is putting out onto the field. It's a fun, hypothetical argument. I want to know what you guys think. Leave your thoughts in the comments below, how you think the Trojans and the Bruins would fare in a hypothetical fantasy world where they were in the Big Ten in 2023.
Thanks for watching Big Ten Ted, where it's all Big Ten all year long. Make sure to like the video to spread the word of Big Ten Ted to the masses, and subscribe to the channel for updates on Big Ten content that drops every day.